and they make it look so easy. You know, if you've ever watched a Matt Armstrong video, he explains it so well and does it and makes it seem so simple. It's like, oh, anyone can do that. And then you quickly find out that no one can do it, at least no one that is me. Do not try to rebuild a wrecked car, especially if you don't know the history of that car or are being a bit ignorant about the history of that car. We wanted to buy a G80 M3 and we had our heart set on one. We paid all the IAA fees, paid a broker, helped us bid on it, and we just got outbid so badly. So we were like, okay, well, we paid all these fees, which now looking back at it was not a great reason to just bid on the next car that was for sale. But we decided that it was time to buy a crash car. We decided that everyone on YouTube was doing it. And Matt Armstrong's M5, it did great, so why couldn't we do it? Fortunately enough, we had paid the IAA fees, which is a website you buy crash cars on, and there was an M5 coming up for sale. We didn't look into it too far, but crash-wise, it actually didn't look very damaged. It was like a lot of front-end damage, but other than that, it was pretty much fine. There was one thing with the car. It had already been a salvage title from a flood. But, you know, we were like, we can overlook that. It'll go for cheaper. And the pictures of the flood, there was like literally this much water. So, you know, whatever. Flood, New York, you know. The car was from New York, by the way. Also, do not buy a crash car from New York. That's my new recommendation. We decided, you know what, we're going to bid on it. We bid up to a number we probably shouldn't have paid it. I think it was like, what, $27,000 for that car? Which at the time, those cars were very expensive. This was like almost a year ago now, so a little bit more explainable. I wasn't even there bidding. He was bidding from Colombia on a crashed M5 from America, New York, and somehow we won it. And then it got delivered like 3 days later, and I immediately started looking at it, and I was like, oh, this is a little bit worse for wear, but you know, it's fine. So when we bought the M5, it was like our next level. We wanted to level things up. That's always how you kind of expect YouTubers to do it. The first car that we built was the cheapest 996 in the world. It was, or that's what Autotempest said at the time. It was the cheapest 996 in the world. It was a manual coupe, cheapest manual coupe, and that was what we wanted. The car had a few issues, but we wanted to take it to the next level and make it into like a sort of adventure car. So we put a lift kit on it. We did all sorts of supporting mods, and then we drove that car across the country. That was great. Because of that car, we got offered another very cool car, which was an Aston Martin that had been sitting for 15 years at a body shop, completely dismantled. The car had a broken clutch. We got that working. We ended up putting a crazy body kit on it and made that all happen. So we decided we needed something more difficult, and that's when the M5 came in the picture. We said, okay, we're getting to be pretty good mechanics. This is something we could easily figure out. It's not a problem. We can watch other YouTubers' videos. People have done this, and they make it look so easy. You know, if you've ever watched a Matt Armstrong video, he explains it so well and does it and makes it seem so simple. It's like, oh, anyone can do that. And then you quickly find out that no one can do it, at least no one that is me. And yeah, it really sort of left us scratching our heads a little bit, trying to figure out exactly how to make it work. Everything was looking fixable. We weren't super nervous. We started tearing it apart, and it was actually going all right until we posted the first video. And then we got a DM from someone that was claiming to be the previous owner. And he said, hey, that's my car. I crashed it doing this, and the engine is totally fucked. He said it's low in compression. It had been apparently the fastest F90 M5 with stock turbos in the world. The guy was like, yeah, man, you know, I'm a renowned street racer, blah, 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 all these great things that you love to hear about a car that you bought without knowing the real history of it, all these things. And so I immediately, you know, I call Jackson. I say, hey, we have a big problem. This car that we're already not sure if we can fix now needs an engine, potentially. So we started to, worst case scenario, freak out, all the things. We ended up contacting the shop that diagnosed it, and they were like, okay, basically, if you were to tune it back to stock, you can probably run it totally fine. It is a little bit low in compression, but it was also pushing like, I think it was like 850 wheel horsepower on stock turbos. Not quite sure how that was possible, but in New York, they find a way. We went forward with it. We started pouring all of our money and time into fixing it. And one of the big things that we discovered immediately while working on that car was just how bad the cooling systems are. If you've never seen the engine bay of one of those, I suggest never looking at it because it's just a bunch of hoses. I swear it makes any other car I've seen look so simple. And we're used to working on old cars. We have the 996, the Aston Martin. Those cars have like one tube going this way, one tube going that way, and it's perfectly fine. And then the M5, it's things all over the place. It's always looking at you funny. And what we found out while we were ordering parts is that there's actually two versions of that cooling system that look 95% the same, but aren't. And there are plenty of strange differences, so it's just basically impossible to figure out what's going on. We ordered all these parts, half of them weren't lining up, things weren't fitting where they were supposed to go, and to be honest, we just started like losing motivation. And if you're a fan of our YouTube channel, Captain Crankshaft, you've probably commented on our videos, where's the M5? And well, it's gonna get fixed. We've got some professionals helping us, but it's been probably the most challenging thing we've ever done on a car. And we've put lift kits on and Chinese body kits and things that should probably be more difficult than just putting a cooling system back together. But when the car is that complicated, has that crappy of a history, you never really know what you're gonna get. Wires got crushed in the accident. It's like so many things that you'd never think would be a problem buying a car in a crash. And I think that was the biggest shock, was just like how many small things that you can't even really replace. It's like, I don't want to replace the full harness in this car, so you have to like chop up the pigtail or chop up and pigtail in a new part of a harness, which is something I don't know how to do, and something you would never think you'd have to do. But with these new cars, it's pretty much always just a new thing being thrown at you, and it takes forever to fix. And we're still not done yet, but it will be done soon. So we still have that coming, allegedly. I would happily never buy another crash car again. I would love to steer clear from that forever, but it is great content. I think the biggest thing is doing a bit more research on the car. I mean, to be fair, I love BMWs. I thought I knew a lot about it, but I like old cars. I think if I were to do another crash car, I would be more than happy to do a less complicated car with less electronic stuff. If you've ever worked on like a CAN bus system in a BMW, every single little wire does 50 things, and all of them are completely different. So if you have one wire that's not crimped together properly, the whole car freaks out, which is the most annoying thing ever. So maybe find an older car, find out maybe who owned it before and a little bit more of the story, maybe use VINwiki for that one. Probably would have helped find that the car with the license plate Menace with a 5 instead of an E was not a great car to purchase after being wrecked. But again, just do a little bit more research and maybe pick something a little bit less complicated.
Today's video is brought to you by Somo. Sotheby's Motorsport is one of the fastest growing online auction marketplaces for collector cars and exotic cars. I've sold several of my personal cars on Somo and had great experiences every time. I sold my GTC4 Lusso, a 1976 Rolls-Royce, and a 6-wheeled Range Rover, and all of the transactions went really smoothly. From submitting the car all the way through the auction to the final bids and everything else that you want, they managed everything to make sure that the auction went as perfectly as it possibly could. They talked to me, they talked to the bidders, and everything worked out wonderfully. I know that you'll love them as well. So whether you're looking to buy a car or sell a car, check them out now at the link in the description below and find your next car on Somo.